What's going on, everybody? A surprise special edition here live on our FTN Network YouTube page of Set Bet Spike. Chris Meaney and Eric Young here with you. If you're watching on Game Plus, as per usual here on a Thursday for you guys, a friendly reminder, we will be moving to Fridays starting next week. I think, EY, it just makes more sense. We can recap the Thursday night football game and we can look ahead into one really soon, and then just the week overall in general from a fantasy football standpoint. We can take your start and sit questions if you have them, and then we can get into props, calling touchdowns, picking teams to win and totals, because that's what we really want this episode to be on Fridays. And then as the early episode on Tuesday, again, we can recap Monday Night Football and talk about your waiver wire situations in fantasy football. But man, it's here. We are really inching closer. Week 3 of the preseason happening this week, and then it's go time, bud.
So close, man. I'm tired of guessing. I mean, like, that's just kind of what we do. But I'm ready for there to be actual games that we can talk about, actual results. I'm even ready to be wrong, because I'm gonna be. I mean, this is the nature of the beast. I'm gonna be right more than I'm wrong, but I'm gonna be wrong. So are you. So is everybody else. I am so pumped for this. And right on its heels, I know this is a football show, but we were just talking hockey. That's going to be right. Like, we might as well just move into a studio apartment together and get this over with.
We really should. I've been waiting for you to ask me that. I've been wondering, when they took 4 stack lines away from us, I was just heartbroken, and now here we are back together again, and it should be a hell of a season in the NHL and in the NFL. Yeah, I mean, before we got on here in the green room, you and I and our guy here, George, producer George, always makes the show look so pretty for us. Maybe hardest working guy in the biz for sure. We were just kind of hanging out, talking hockey, Kyle Connor, talking about Eurosens, talking NHL, and also some fun combos on the side as well, behind the scenes. Daily Handle in the house. Pumped for the NFL season. Great call to move the show to Friday. Yeah, I think it makes more sense, right? Even the props and the lines are out for, we have a couple shows here in case you need your betting fix. Shout out to Betting with Betty and Quan. Those guys getting together late, super late, like psychos on a Sunday night after all the games, just to give you a sneak peek of the early lines for the week to come. And then they will talk about some picks on Friday. So for us,
they can move into our apartment too.
They can come in. We'll let them in.
We might have to get a couple bedrooms. I don't know if a studio is going to work for 4 dudes.
It may not.
Couple bunk beds. Who knows?
Yeah, lots of room for activities. So on the Friday, like usually those props come out mid-Thursday, and we do the show. We have been recording for the most part Thursday mornings, but you're super busy, I'm busy, and I think it just makes sense we get those props late Thursday afternoon and early Friday, and we can talk about it. And you are absolutely right. Daily Handle, EY will be predicting anytime touchdowns on this show.
How in the flying F does this happen? First of all, I gotta predict goal scoring in the NHL, which is a fool's errand. Now I'm going to predict touchdowns in the NFL. And Daily Handle, you're 100% right, because that is what I'm going to do, because I am a damn lunatic.
Who do you think will be like your Kyle Connor? Like, starting now, who do you think that guy will be for you? I feel like it's going to be Saquon Barkley. I feel like you're going to be all over Barkley every week for touchdowns.
Yeah, I still think, like, he's obviously he's going up, he's moving up in drafts, but I still think he's too low. I've got him on a ton of teams. People are, will tell you, oh, like I'm drafting Christian McCaffrey first, which I did. I'm not telling you to take Saquon first, but I'm telling you where he's going. He might be the best value of any person in the entire league. He's a generational athlete. Last year's injury, a complete freak accident, is same as Henry's. If you're taking Henry and you're taking Dalvin Cook and you're taking, Christian McCaffrey for sure, and making excuses for them and why they'll be fine and not at a risk of injury, you got to take Barkley. I've said this, and I will say it till I'm blue in the face. Every single player can get hurt. You have to worry about soft tissue injuries. Past that, don't worry about any of it, because it's an insane sport. It's physical. People get hurt every week. It's going to happen. Do not let that change your judgment. If you think the player's good, you think he's in a good situation, you think he's going to score a bunch of points, draft him. Worry about it later.
Yeah, no, good call. It's good advice. I took part in Jake Seeley's Superflex draft last night, and I was on Sirius talk about my squad, and that's pretty much what I said. Like, if you have a feeling about a guy, Really just go out and get him. You don't need to say, oh, you know what? Maybe I'll wait and he's there next week or next round. Chances are he's not. Like people are, go get your guys, right? Don't worry too much about ADP and things like that. Certainly get your guys. George, of course, is in the house. EY's guy is going to be T. Higgins. Defense going to be all over Chase. Okay. We are talking about Georgia's Cincinnati Bengals here today. We are here to preview the AFC North. We will wrap up all our division previews and team previews with this division. We have been waiting. I've kind of just waited as long as I could because now we have Deshaun Watson news. A couple weeks ago, there was no win total for Cleveland. We didn't really know. There was some uncertainty, of course. That's why there was no win total because of the Deshaun Watson news. We won't lead with the Browns. We'll kind of save them for the end, but Watson is suspended for the first 11 games of the season. He won't come back until week 13. So we'll talk about what to do with him on draft boards, what to do with this Browns team, because there are some really nice pieces, but the odds have changed considerably since hearing that news. They had an outside chance to win the division. Vegas was giving them an outside chance, and now things are pretty long shot. Like, for example, they were 33-1 to win the Super Bowl before the suspension. Now I think they're 50, 55 in some spots. Let's lead not with the favorites, but you mentioned off the top of the show that we will get things wrong on this show. Things like that's why the NFL is amazing. There's so much parity. Like that's why we love this sport. There's always surprise teams. And one of them last year, the Cincinnati Bengals. You can't tell me that you had the Cincinnati Bengals coming out of the AFC and going to the Super Bowl and hanging around with the eventual Super Bowl champion Los Angeles Rams. I believe Mr. Burrow set an NFL record for a quarterback to get taken first overall and bring his team to the Super Bowl within the first couple years of his NFL career. Think about that. When the Bengals took him, they were the worst team in the NFL. They had the first pick. 2 years later, they were playing in the Super Bowl. Crazy. Let's talk about these Bengals. They are plus 160 to win the division, plus 190 on this board. You can get that. I am looking at DK currently, but use our prop shop parlay calculator, get the best possible odds, both free. Links inside the description of this video. Win total at 10, 12-1 to win the conference. As I mentioned, plus 190 there to win the division. I got here wild card berth potentially for them at plus 280, 22-1 to win the Super Bowl. So not really getting, the respect, I suppose, from Vegas as maybe a potential repeat here in the AFC. 10-7 last year. What you think, man? Bengals for real? Fluky season? Get back there? What do you think about this team?
I don't feel it was a fluke. I think it caught us all off guard. But I mean, I don't think you make it to the Super Bowl on the path that they had. Look, as a person that tore his ACL just a little over a year ago, the fact that Burrow started the season and was as good as he was and got better and better it's miraculous. I mean, it's nothing short of that. I think it's more proof and something that I've been saying forever. Quarterback is the most important position. Look, like you were just saying, the Cleveland Browns. Like, we don't know who Deshaun Watson's going to be. And look, I'm going to put all the stuff, his real life stuff and the legal stuff aside. I'm just talking about the fantasy and the football player. If you don't like him and you don't want to draft him.
It's a fine line. Yeah.
It's a fine line, but I'm just going to say he makes his team better. And him not being there, this team automatically gets worse. It doesn't matter how good the offensive line is. It doesn't matter how good the running game is. It doesn't matter, what Amari Cooper's going to do, what David Njoku's going to do now that he got paid, what this defense is going to do. None of that matters. I mean, especially on the offensive side, if they don't have a person to distribute the ball and to respect, the throwing game, everything suffers. So this team is just not as good. Cincinnati, like Burrow, I mean, I loved him at LSU. You can just see his poise, his confidence, and, he has that same thing Allen has. Like, winning is the only thing that matters. And you can see it in his play. And not only is it the only thing that matters, he has the ability to get things done. No, he is not a runner like Hurts or Trey Lance or Justin Fields, but he can move, and that is a huge part of his game. Being able to avoid pressure, that offensive line last year was ranked as one of the worst in the league, and they pieced it together and they went all the way to the Super Bowl and could have won it. I mean, it wouldn't have been a surprise to anybody if they won it. I don't think. They're reporting that the O line is better. Take that with a grain of salt because they haven't played together. An offensive line is totally a unit. And you don't know. Adding guys that were good in other places doesn't automatically make the line better, and that's just something that I've always believed. Time will tell, but I'll say they have superstars at every offensive position, and a really good, I think, dark horse, super late, like last pick, Hayden Hurst as a tight end. Just never really given the opportunity anywhere else. This guy's a really good tight end, a really good athlete, really good hands, good route runner. They have superstars at every position. Maybe the best wide receiver duo in the whole league.
Oh yeah, I think absolutely. Nobody talks about Tyler Boyd enough, right?
He's a number one
Um,
in almost any other team.
I mean, he has a couple 1,000-yard seasons on under his
Yep.
belt on his resume. Before Burrow with Andy Dalton. Yeah, there's a lot of nice weapons inside this offense. I don't think it was a fluke either. And when I said fine line, I wanted to bring that up. I think fine line was the wrong choice. I know we are talking from an NFL and a fantasy standpoint. I know it can be touching to talk about Watson that way without really bringing up everything. But we won't really get into that. I've had my say over at Mean Streets. I don't think the guy should play a snap in the NFL this year, but we will go back to Cincinnati here for a second. Yeah, I think the offensive line is improved, right? They've grabbed some pieces from Dallas and from New England. I think they've certainly addressed what they have needed to address over the past couple of years. You remember like when the debate was between Penei Sewell and Jamar Chase? I think they made the right call.
Yep.
And I was thinking to myself, man, you really need to protect Joe Burrow. He's coming off that significant knee injury. But do you want Joe Burrow's old buddy from LSU, Jamar Chase? And it's like, I can't even imagine. I can't even fathom, like, that thought actually crossed my mind that maybe they should consider taking an offensive lineman instead of Jamar Chase. What a connection that these two had last season, setting records, phenomenal stuff. T. Higgins actually averaged more targets per game than Jamar Chase
Yep.
last season. They're both studs. I think Chase is going slightly early. I feel like he's a really good wide receiver in this league, but man, it's kind of spread out, right? Like, I don't think he's going to get the same type of volume as Justin Jefferson, as Devontae Adams, as Stephon Diggs. I don't believe it, but he's a really good target. I think T. Higgins is the value, and then Tyler Boyd actually would be the value. George, if we bring it up one more time, just a reminder of where Boyd is going here. Um, Man, like wide receiver 52. He finished as a top 40 wide receiver last year. He was a top 30 wide receiver in the last few games of the season. The difference with Burrow last year, looking at him, so obviously that injury, and in year one, the team had a lot of holes all over the place, and they improved defensively as well. There was always a team that you could run all over them. So they had so many holes all over the place, and they were chucking quite a bit. Joe Burrow was throwing. And then this year, then in year two, they scaled back. Maybe the injury, clearly some rust. Let's lean on Joe Mixon and not have our franchise quarterback drop back so many times and take all these hits. But then once he started to get comfortable again, they took the training wheels off, and then he was throwing quite a bit. And that's when Tyler Boyd was really a low end wide receiver 3 down the stretch of the season. So there's so much to like inside this offense.
Yep.
The line is improved. The defense is good. They can stop the run now. I like them to win the division again. I think that they get it done. We'll get into the Ravens in a second, but would you take? I think there's pretty good value on them, plus money for them to win the.
Yeah. I think if
We
I was
talk too
going to
much about
pick a
schedule.
team,
It's tougher schedule,
yep.
and I know we've had that conversation. It is a tougher schedule, but who would you pick to win this division?
Yeah, I would. I don't think I could go against Cincinnati because I think, I feel where their defense finished last year, like I think it's only up just because of the experience and the confidence. They're going to be a better group, and the reality is, it doesn't matter because they're almost impossible to outscore because of the weapons they have on offense. Higgins is a much better value than Chase. I don't have Chase on a single
Mhm.
team yet just because of where he's going. If I'm not getting Jefferson or Cup, I'm loading up on running backs and waiting for later. And having Higgins as my number one, sign me up all day long, man. All day
I
long.
like it. What do you think about Burrow, though? As you saw on that board, he is getting drafted as a top 5 quarterback. So you are paying the price to get Joe Burrow. You see their quarterback 459. This is high stakes leagues here. So people are really putting their money on this guy being a top 10, top 5 quarterback. So, for example, last year overall, he finished as quarterback 8. But in fantasy points per game, he finished as quarterback 10. He definitely broke out. Of course, the rookie season was limited to 10 games. But last year, 34 touchdowns and 14 interceptions. He was sacked, I believe, more than any quarterback in an entire season, which is including the postseason run as well. He was on his back a lot. But as we talked about, the offensive line is a little bit, it's addressed. Are you willing to take him as a top 5 quarterback? Again, we're saying you're probably taking him over Lamar Jackson, over Jalen Hurts. Um, are you willing to do that?
I think there's a world where I think about that. I mean, I also feel the narrative of like running quarterbacks are just worth so much more. Guys, Tom Brady was a top 5 quarterback last year. He is a
Yeah,
statue.
overall.
He is a statue. So you can say that. I think it's important, and I think it heightens a ceiling of a quarterback, especially on a team that doesn't have a great offensive line. Like if they have the ability to run and they're forced to do it, then it heightens their ceiling or their floor. But I don't think it makes them worth more than guys that are going to throw the ball accurately, guys that have really good wide receiver cores, and someone like like Joe Burrow. If he plays like he played in the second half, there's a world where he could finish number 1. And I don't think I would be surprised by that at all.
Yeah,
He
his
could throw
finish
50
was
touchdowns this year.
unbelievable.
That is not outside of the realm of possibilities.
Mhm.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's just
No, it's
not.
not.
It's not. If you watched him play and now he's even more confident, he's better, another year in the system. Like you said, the offensive line was addressed. Jamar Chase is going to be better. I know that sounds insane, but it's just true. Like he could throw for 50 touchdowns.
The finish that he had, week 16 and week 17, like he won you championships. I had him on my squad, and he
I
went
had
through
him
a
and Jamar
stretch.
Chase in that crazy game.
Oh man, good for you.
The two of them
Against
scored
KC.
like I was playing Michael Fabiano in a league, and those guys between the two of them, I think, had over 100 points. And I'm like, there's no way Michael Fabiano can beat me. I lost by like 0.6 points. Think about that.
My goodness.
Good
I've
Lord.
had those losses too. They're heartbreaking. It's fantasy. I've been on both sides of those. I do feel the pain of being on the wrong side. I had him in a league where I didn't make the playoffs.
I stopped looking at the score. I'm like, there's no way he comes back.
There's no way. No.
But
I had him in a league that didn't make the playoffs, and it was a weird stretch for him. Like week 9 and week 11, I'm looking at right now, 7 fantasy points and 9 fantasy points, and then 16, all of a sudden, bang, like 22. Week 16, he drops 38 on the division rivals Baltimore. He throws for 525 yards and 4 passing touchdowns, and then the final week against the Chiefs, that was a hell of a game. 34 fantasy points, and he threw for 446 yards and 4 touchdowns. So the guy wrapped up throwing 300 plus yards in 4 of his final 5 games. But again, I'll wrap up in here. Actually, do want to get your thoughts on Mixon just quickly for a minute when we get out of here on Cincy. There is something to be said about the schedule. I know I already kind of mentioned it, but this was the worst team in the league, and they had a very favorable schedule. Now they had a great year. They are going to face some tougher opponents, but he's certainly capable of, I think, there's upside there to be a top 5 quarterback. I will admit I wouldn't pull the trigger on him ahead of Lamar or ahead of Jalen Hurts.
I wouldn't either. Not ahead of
Lamar. It's a not at that price as a top 50 pick. It's a little steep for me, but he does have a sneaky rushing ability. Hasn't done a whole lot because of the knee, but 260 yards in 2 years and 5 rushing touchdowns. I think there's more to be untapped there. Joe Mixon, though, top 10 running back. Are you comfortable with him taking him as your RB1 in the second round?
1,000%.
Okay. Yeah, me too.
I mean, athletics wise, body composition, like I don't know if there's a more complete running back in the league. Like speed, quickness, size, power, good hands, good route runner, good blocker. Yeah. Like he shouldn't come off the field. He shouldn't come off the field. And he's gonna because that's how the NFL is now. But the reality is he should be, he should be Barry Sanders. Like he should just not come off the field ever.
I know
I love Joe Mixon, and I am not new to the Joe Mixon love. I have suffered in silence with this guy for 4 or 5 years.
So you stick together, you and the Mixon clan have stuck together over the years because there have been a lot of people that have liked him, and then the thing has been some injuries, and people say that he doesn't catch, which is fine. Samaje Perine gets on there and third down opportunities, but Joe Mixon, guys, had 42 receptions last year, so it's not like he doesn't catch like Derrick Henry or Nick Chubb. Yeah, he does. 42 catches. I mean, where did that rank last year? It must have been definitely top 10. It's T13. Like he catches the ball, he gets targets. He finishes RB3 last year in a half point setting. and fantasy points per game, he was RB4. So I agree. Joe Mixon's pretty good. Daily Handle, I haven't seen some comments in a little bit. Eagles and Titans new. Wow. Eagles and Titans made a deal. Our squads. Look at that. Boom. They must have heard we were doing a surprise show together, is what Daily Handle said. And I do believe you that you had a 55-1 super, pretty impressive. I don't know if there's a bigger Joe Burrow fan than Daily Handle. Actually, he loves him.
I love Burrow too.
To me in a chat, and his rookie before he touched the field, give him some props here. Before he touched the field, he told me that Joe Burrow would win multiple Super Bowls. Now he hasn't won one yet, but the fact that he has already been to one 30 games into his NFL career,
good call.
That little call there for you. Even though at the time, again, they were awful. Let's move on from Cincy. Baltimore is the actual favorite of this team. Last year, they went through a lot of adversity. Before the season started, they lost J.K. Dobbins. They lost Gus Edwards. I believe they lost Marcus Peters. They lost Humphrey at one point in the season. Lamar Jackson missed some time. Pieces on the offensive line, and COVID ran through their team significantly. This it was a very bad year for Baltimore. Everything that could have went wrong basically went wrong. But Vegas knows this is a good team. They're giving them the benefit of the doubt here at plus 170 to win the division, wildcard plus 290, win total 10.5, 11-1 to win the conference. And last year, you see, they still managed basically to be a 500 football team despite all of those injuries, 8-9. This team's really good, Eric. It's really good, man. They don't have any depth at the wide receiver position, but it's
doesn't it feel like Baltimore has been good for a decade?
Definitely since 2000.
Harbaugh's,
I remember
what a run as a coach.
Championship.
They've been all kinds of different kind of teams. Like, I think they want to run the ball. I think a lot of that's going to depend on Dobbins' health. Gus Edwards probably not going to start the year. They want to run the ball. That's the identity of this team. They want to play defense and they want to run the ball. That's what Harbaugh wants to do. But I'll say Lamar Jackson, is he a prolific thrower? No, but he's a good thrower, and his throwing has improved every year. I think if he's healthy, he's one of the best dual threat running backs in the league. I love having him on my fantasy team. This year, I'm trying to pair him and Mark Andrews wherever I can. It's not something that I've really typically done before, but I just think I like oh my God, I can't think of the receiver's name. I just said it in my head.
Bateman?
And now Bateman. Rashad Bateman, I like him and I like where he's going. And as a number one, when he came out, he's one of those, he's supposed to have every tool, right? We haven't seen it, but he's supposed to have every tool. But the reality is we've seen Lamar Jackson, his guy is Mark Andrews, and he's going to throw it to him. He's going to trust him. He's going to score a ton of touchdowns. This is a team that I really, really like. I think Cincinnati wins this division. I just think that most of these teams won't be able to keep up the scoring pace with Cincinnati, but I do think Baltimore is going to be very, very good again.
You know what? For Mark Andrews, I'm with you. I think it's a really good stack in best ball leagues, even in real.
I'm willing to go early on him if I have Lamar. It's not something I typically like to do, but
get it done though. But man. So last night I was going to do Andrews in that flex league, and he went right before me. I just took Pitts. Obviously, I didn't have Lamar, but he finished his tight end 1 last year. Andrews. He had the same amount of touchdowns as Kelsey. He had more catches than him. He had more targets than him. He finished with more fantasy points than him. Kelsey's going before him. Kelsey's going end of first, early second, and Andrews is falling to end of second, early third, mid third. I've said this before to you and on this show and on other shows. From a fantasy football standpoint, I don't think that there's a big enough gap. I don't think that the gap is that big between Kelsey and Andrews and Pitts.
Nope.
In years past, I've always backed Travis Kelsey being a first-round pick because when you had him, you had a massive advantage on everybody else in your league in terms of tight ends. You really did. And it was warranted for him to be that high of a pick. But now I just don't think so. I just feel like, what are the chances? Jake asked me on this show this morning. What are the chances Andrews finishes as tight end 1 again? Or maybe Kelsey finishes as tight end 3? I feel like there's at least a 65% chance that Kelsey it's not automatic anymore. So there's terrific value. When you put the ADPs up side by side with Kelsey and Andrews, you're getting value with Andrews as your guy. You just saw the board. there's a lack of weapons inside this offense. I mean, Devin Duvernay, I think we made this board a while ago. I mean, Gus Edwards is already hurt. Tyler Batty, I mean, forget about it. I think if you need a running back right now, it's Mike Davis. I know Mike Davis had a down year in Tampa, but he's going to get touches. Dobbins is coming off a significant injury. He's going to be there week 1, but he's going to be on a pitch count for the first couple of years or couple of weeks. They will have Davis getting touches right away. So, I mean, he can be your last pick. He's going undrafted. If you draft a guy like Edwards or Jamison Williams, you put him on IR, and then you pick up another guy, you pick up Davis, and you got a somebody that you can play in a flex spot if you're in a pinch for the first couple weeks. But the wide receivers, I mean, I love Bateman. He should get a ton of targets. He should be the number 2 in the offense. But after that, if you just take Baltimore's whole wide receiver room, they have a career 116 catches. Like, tell me that Andrews isn't like a wide receiver 1, really. Like, the guy is going to flirt with 1,400 yards again.
Yeah, and that's why. Like, I mean, I like him. I think I have him ranked as my number 1 tight end because of the finish last year, because of the age, because of the necessity. And I think part of it too is the athletic profile of Kelsey. Like, he can take a top off a defense for a big guy running down the seam. Like, that's part of his thing. I don't know if Andrews is the same kind of player, but the reality is he knows how to be open, and he knows how to be available for a quarterback that doesn't really like to throw the ball deep, who likes those intermediate routes and likes to dink and dunk and work his way down the field. That's what Baltimore wants to do. I mean, he's the perfect tight end for this offense, a perfect tight end for who Lamar Jackson is. And in my opinion, right now is the number 1 receiver on this team. Sign me up all day long.
Yeah. So I like Lamar where he's going. I mean, obviously you have to. I have him as a top 5 quarterback. He's got the rushing upside, and you know what? He's. We'll say this. I mean, he is certainly committed. He is. He definitely feels himself. I hear he's turned down like a boatload of money, and he's coming in bigger, stronger. Maybe that means deeper throws down the field. Who knows? Well, we could see a little bit of a different Lamar. I do agree with what Handel said earlier about, maybe not trusting him as just like a real life NFL passer. I think he still has some room to grow, and he will need to get better, especially in a loaded AFC now that he's going to see Mahomes for years, and Russell's added, and Herbert's only going to get better, and Josh Allen. Like, there's a lot of really good quarterbacks in the AFC. I don't think that the Ravens I wouldn't call them a Super Bowl contender, but I think that they have pretty decent odds at, what was it, George, 22-1. I think if you're looking for a sprinkle outside of the top 20 and you didn't get in on the Broncos at 20, 22-1 for maybe the Ravens or the Bengals. I think they're decent long shots. For both of these teams to, at least get in, because one of them are going to win the division, and the defense is pretty strong in Baltimore when this is a healthy unit. So Bateman, great. Lamar, great. Andrews, great. That's kind of it, right? What about J.K. Dobbins?
Dobbins could be special. Just who he was coming out, what we've seen of him when he's healthy. And like you said, like this team can run. Mike Davis, we've seen older players, Latavius Murray and Mark Ingram go there and be really, really good and score a bunch of touchdowns. Davis could do that this year. So I love that call of hit, taking him in the last round. Dobbins, I think, will be the guy here. But, I mean, we know this. They're going to run the top ball a ton, and they're not afraid to use 2 or 3 different running backs.
They're not. I am in on Dobbins too. Actually, I think he's a pretty good pick outside the top 20 at running back. This is how his season finished last year. So we didn't see him last year in year 2. I was in on him as like a breakout guy last year, and then the injury happened. But this is how his season wrapped up last year. 15 carries, 70 yards, a touchdown. 11, 71 yards, a touchdown. 13, 53 yards, a touchdown. 14, 64, and a touchdown. 11, 71, and a touchdown. 13, $160 and 2 touchdowns. Into the playoffs, 9 for 43 and a touchdown. And then that final game where they got bounced by the Bills, he had 10 for 42, and he caught 3 of his 5 targets for another 51 yards. So thing, take away from me, scoring touchdowns for one, right? Even though Lamar is a guy that calls his own number, they clearly trusted him inside the red zone, and he got some rushing touchdowns, and he was pretty efficient on limited carries, and that's what a rushing quarterback can do for you as well, right? 4.7, 6.5, 4.1, 4.6, 7, 12.3 yards per attempt. kind of living in the 12 to 13 carry mark range, but averaging like 60, 75 yards. So don't worry about the injury. I think he is. I think he's
We
going to
said
be.
it
He could
already.
potentially be a league winner. Yeah,
Can't
you're
worry
right
about
there.
it.
Can't worry about it. All right, moving right along. Baltimore check. Cincy check. Let's do Pitt. Let's do the Steelers. Boom, boom. 7.5 win total. Ah, man, there's statistics that just roam in my head. I wish you could live in my head for a day. I'm pretty sure the Steelers have had a 500 record in every single season Mike Tomlin has been there. I do believe that goes back to
That wouldn't surprise me
2006
at all.
potentially. A couple 500 seasons in there. Last year they got in at the end 9-7. I thought they had a tie last year, but I'm not sure. But 7.5 is the win total. But they are long shots here to win this division, to be a playoff team this year, and Super Bowl odds at 90-1. You have a lot of pieces offensively, of course. Najee Harris led the NFL in touches last year as a rookie, pretty impressive. The O-line has a lot of question marks, and now we're talking about a lot of question marks at the quarterback position, despite really not getting anything really from Big Ben, despite his inexperience and leadership, and he got them at least into the playoffs. But nobody was taking them seriously against the Chiefs in that opening round. But Mitch Trubisky, they drafted Kenny Pickett. Deontay Johnson's been a target hog with Ben. Who knows if that's going to continue here with different quarterback play. Chase Claypool, shout out to the Canadian boy who called himself at least the third best wide receiver, not on his team, but in the NFL recently, like the confidence. George Pickens is a guy they drafted. Pat Freiermuth is a guy they drafted last season. So a lot of fresh young pieces on this squad. I think Trubisky opens up as the week one starter. I don't think he's done anything to lose his job, but Kenny Pickett's been very impressive here in 2 preseason games. I think it's only a matter of time before we see him. Offensive coordinator Matt Canada said it would be Mason Rudolph, which is just lies. I don't believe that for a second. I think Pickett could be sneaky in super flex leagues. Like I said, I don't think it's only a matter of time. And if Trubisky's starting, he can give you some rushing upside. But overall, I think EY will see Pickett. But there are a lot of questions about quarterback play. Does it make you feel uneasy about any of their weapons, drafting any of their guys?
100%. And it goes along with what I was saying, about the Bengals. Like, the quarterback position, in my opinion, is the most important position in football. And if you don't have a person that can threaten, if you don't have a person that can, run away from pressure, if you don't have a person that can throw accurately and make defenses worry. I mean, what defense is going to worry about any one of these 3 guys? The answer is no defense is going to worry about it. They're going to key on Harris. They're going to key in on Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson is going way too high. I think he's a good receiver, but I don't think we know what he's going to be when we don't have Ben Roethlisberger throwing him 65-yard passes every game. Most of his damage was done on volume. And look at, man, Mr. Brisky is not going to do that. He doesn't have the accuracy. He doesn't have the confidence. He doesn't have the poise. Ben Roethlisberger is a statue. I mean, was a statue most of his career. He was 50% of an NFL player last season, and they still, coddled together a pretty good season. Mitch Trubisky, Mason Rudolph is proven that he is not an NFL starter, and Pickens is a rookie and unknown. Like, I think we're going to see Pickens sooner rather than later. And the reality is we don't know what that's going to mean for any of the pass catchers. I think Najee Harris is still a good pick. He's going to carry the ball. They're saying, we're going to limit him. You could have limited him last year and you didn't. He barely came off the field. So,
dude, do you remember the Hall of Fame game?
What's that?
They gave him like 20 touch. They gave him like double-digit touches in a Hall of Fame game. It's like,
in a game that means absolutely nothing. Right. So those are lies. He's still going to be a strong pick. But as far as the wide receivers, I'm not touching any of them. Deontay Johnson is going too high. Claypool has flashed, moments of absolute greatness, but also has given us zeros. He's too much of a worry. So I feel this is going to be a really rough season for a storied franchise. An unbelievable coach, a great running back with tons of good weapons, but in the end, the quarterback play it's terrifying. It might be the worst. I think it's them or Seattle, and I think if I was to vote, I would say that they're the worst. Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you. I didn't even really like Pickett out of Pitt, but as I mentioned, I do believe he'll take over. He could have some rushing upside there. Maybe not as much as Trubisky in the past, but he could have a little bit there. But there are like I do like some of these weapons, but it is the quarterback play, right? To your point, there's so much boomer bust with Chase Claypool last year as the deep threat guy. If he can play a little bit more slot, then I think that would benefit him. But I agree, man. Deontay Johnson's going too early. I thought it was just me. I'm actually happy to hear you say this because I always feel like I'm in my own world with him.
Love the player, but I'm talking
I
like
like the player
situation.
too. Yeah.
There's too many unknowns. I mean, he is not going to catch as many passes. He's just not going to be able to. I don't care what anybody says. And I'm willing to be wrong, but I'm not touching him.
I've done probably like 20, 25 best ball drafts, and I don't think I have them in one because
Same.
I can't pull the trigger.
I'm gonna have to really push it. I haven't done that many. I'm embarrassed that you've done more. I'm gonna have to really push it here.
I'm
gonna sign up for 5 or 6 today.
You got a life. In fact, we're gonna do 2 next week.
I do not.
Show. It'll be fun. It'll be fun. Where you have to take him. So if you take him, you were taking him over Cortland Sutton.
Nope.
You were taking him over Mike Williams, who finished as wide receiver 12 last year. People don't seem to like Mike Williams this year.
Good. I'll take him.
I'm fine with probably taking him over Jalen Waddle. I think I'd be okay with that. DJ Moore, T. Higgins, Keenan Allen, Allen Robinson. Like, are you going to take him over Allen Robinson? I don't think I could either. I like Allen Robinson.
The training camp hype is getting me right in my Robinson feels. It's getting me right in my feels. I love Robinson.
You like Robinson, so you would take Robinson?
He looked like a corpse last year.
Yeah, but forget about it. Forget about last year. Quarterback play, awful. He wanted a contract, and he wasn't willing to play through it because the Bears wouldn't pay him. The Bears wouldn't pay this guy, so he's like, you know what? Screw you. I'm not playing. You're not going to give me the contract I deserve. I'm not playing through this injury. He's looked great in camp, and I guess I have some elbow concerns with Stafford now. It keeps coming up. But it's going to be the best quarterback he's ever played with and best offensive play caller he's ever been with as well.
By a million miles.
A million miles. And he finished as a top 10 wide receiver in 2 last 3 years. So I'm in. Terry McLaurin or Deontay Johnson?
McLaurin.
I agree. We're getting pretty crazy now. I don't think he'll fall too further than like Gabe Davis or Marquise Brown or DK Metcalf. But what about those 3?
DK I'd take before him. The other 2, I probably don't, but like I said, I played at least 10 or 12 best balls. I've done 3 or 4 season-long drafts already, and I don't have him on a single team.
Yeah, me neither. So bottom line is he's going as a top 20 wide receiver over the last 3 weeks. I just looked at it the last 3 weeks, going as wide receiver 19, pick 42. So, he's going pretty early. I think he should lead this team in targets. But like you said, I don't think it'll be just heavy, as Big Ben in the past is really peppering Deontay over and over and over. But again, he's a really good wide receiver. I think you can make a case for him being like a top 10 wide receiver, despite some of the drops that he's had over the past couple of years. But we're in lockstep here. I think there's a lot going on, a lot of question marks at the quarterback play. I think volume will be there, but at the end of the day, I can't just draft him, as just for volume alone. I like Pickens though. I'm willing to take the shot on him where he goes late in drafts. There's a couple guys in that range. Alec Pierce, Nico Collins, I like. KJ Osborne, I like. George Pickens, I think here there's really no price here. If it doesn't work out, you don't like the way that the feel is for this offense over the first couple of weeks of the season, you can cut ties with him. But he's a big body wide receiver, can go up and get it. He's very physical. We've already seen that, a nice touchdown from him in the preseason. So I think he's a really good wide receiver that fell to Pittsburgh. I think it was a great pick. He's one of my favorite ones coming out of Georgia. And I like Najee as well. He's going to lead. He's going to be top 3 in touches. They can't scale back. You can say all they want because they're not going to put Benny Snell in there. Like, what do you mean?
Wait, that's the number one point. Like, who's taking this guy off the field?
They have Wallace, who looks like he's going to earn the second job behind Najee, but Najee's such a good pass catcher. How are you not going to take him off the field, right?
I think they'll try, but I don't think they're going to be successful.
I wanted to get the first name for you guys because I just threw his name out. I think he could actually be sneaky in deep dynasty leagues. I've seen some buzz on him, and I saw some footage. Yeah, it's Jalen Warren. Excuse me, Jalen Warren. Maybe put him on your deep list if you're doing rookie only drafts. But it's Najee's backfield. All right, a few more minutes here to wrap up with Cleveland. We kind of already addressed some things that have changed with them. over the past couple of weeks. So you see on the board, for example, I have from my notes before the suspension came down here. What do we have? So they went from 16-1 to 25-1 to win the conference. They went from plus 333, easy for me to say, to plus 450 to win the division. They went from 33-1 to win the Super Bowl. That should say 50-1, not 5-1. That should be 50-1 to win the Super Bowl. Bats on me, George, not you. Bats on me. 8-9 record last year. So the Brownies, 8.5 win total. They didn't have one before the suspension. Now they have one at 8.5. Jacoby Brissett under center. I've said this a couple times. I went to the only game in New England Patriots NFL history where they were shut out at home. At home. We bought the tickets in the summer. Tom Brady got suspended for 4 games for Deflategate. Jimmy Garoppolo broke his hand or something silly. And the third string quarterback was Jacoby Brissett. And they couldn't do anything on offense. It was 3-0, 3-0, 3-0. They stunk up the joint. They scored 0 points. I don't think Jacoby's that great of a quarterback. Does it make you feel any differently about this offense? Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt's on the board, reports that he demanded a trade. He's on the final year of a deal. Donovan Peoples-Jones, David Bell, these guys are going late. David Njoku, I think I'm intrigued with. But does it do anything for you for Cooper and Chubb, knowing that it's not Deshaun Watson for the first 11 weeks of the season? It's Jacoby Brissett or maybe Jimmy Garoppolo or whatever the heck else they could do.
I mean, Chubb, not so much. He played with a hobbled and I mean, in reality, pissed poor Baker Mayfield last year and was still an absolute beast. This is another guy, athletic profile, like he is an animal. Like Nick Chubb is one of my favorite running backs. He might be the best pure runner in the NFL. He might be. And I think everybody's taking this guy in the first round if Kareem Hunt isn't there. And listen, guys, sure. Kareem Hunt may not be there. Like, I know we're getting dangerously close to the season, but he doesn't want to play there. He said it. He's openly said that I asked for a trade. There's, he would look awesome in Miami. He would look really good in Texas.
There's reports
Kareem Hunt's a starting running back on 25 teams, right? I mean, like he's such a good player. He hurts Nick Chubb because of the player that he is. You mean like third downs, Nick Chubb can catch the ball, but Kareem Hunt is just better at it than he is, and he's going to play. He's going to play. He's going to carry the ball. They're going to split. If Kareem Hunt gets traded, I think Deontay Johnson is a good player too, but not near the level of Kareem Hunt. Nick Chubb, I mean, could end the season as a top 5 running back. I believe that 100%. I love watching this guy run the ball. I think the fact that it's Jacoby Brissett may make Nick Chubb even more valuable. They're going to want to run the ball even more. So
for sure,
I love Nick Chubb. I mean, I especially love the ADP of 26. Kareem Hunt at 93, that could be the steal of the draft. If he gets traded and becomes a starting running back on another team and you took him 93rd, you're going to look like a genius. He also could get traded to the Texans, and they're terrible. I don't know. Everyone's talking about this Pierce kid like he's the second coming. I'm terrified of rookie players. I just am.
Yeah, I know. I hear you. I am in on Pierce, but man, he is. I've been in on Pierce all summer, but I've been taking him in the 10th round. Now you got to take him in like the 7th. So he's getting drafted as a running back.
Too rich for my blood for a guy that's never played it down in the NFL.
Man, dude, 2 months ago, he was going as like RB45, and it was just unbelievable. It was so easy to just double tap like him or Tyler Algier, like at the end of like 9 or 10, like it did in fantasy. But now he's in the flex draft yesterday. He went as RB31. So he went before Kareem Hunt. I agree with everything you said. I love Nick Chubb. I think he's fantastic. For a guy that only caught 20 passes last year on 25 targets and he missed 3 games, he finished as a top 12 running back. He finished as RB11 at points per game. He finished as RB10. That's from a half point setting. I've watched this guy play live twice. The first Cleveland game that I went to, I went into the gift shop and I said, I need a Nick Chubb tee. It was like week 4 in. I said, I need a Nick Chubb t-shirt. It's only a matter of time before he overtakes Duke Johnson. I remember that year. Everyone's like, Duke Johnson, Duke Johnson, Duke Johnson. I was like, forget Duke Johnson. It's Nick Chubb. You know what they told me in the gift shop? We don't have any. I said, holy crap, what a mistake. You guys need to get some Nick Chubb shirts. Chubb is an awesome last name, and he's going to be a beast for you guys. And then
Yep.
2 years later, I went to Cleveland and I got myself a Nick Chubb T. Yeah, I think he may be one of my favorite backs in the league, man. As a
I love
rookie
him
that
too,
season,
man. Love him.
900 rushing yards, followed by 1,494 in his first full season in the NFL as a starter. 5.3 yards per attempt for his career, 4 years. Just shy of 5,000 yards on 900 attempts. He's had 1,000 yards in each of the last 3 years. He's had at least 8 touchdowns in every single season by one. And that third season, he had 36 grabs on 49 targets. And then they got Kareem Hunt, and it crushed me because
Yep.
I agree with you. If they trade away Hunt, this guy's a top 5 running back because he can catch. We've already seen a season with 30 plus grabs from him. There were games down the stretch of that year where he was catching 3 or 4 passes out of the backfield. Hunt is a great back. It's nice to have that 1-2 punch. If they decide to move on from him, you may have yourself a league winner in Nick Chubb getting him as RB14, sometimes in the 3rd round. And the same can be said about Hunt. You may have yourself a league winner if he goes to a really good situation and you're getting him as RB 35, 36. Cooper's not on my radar, but I took him yesterday as wide receiver 34. At that point, I mean, come
Great
on,
value.
right? Just take him. He should be top 10 in terms of target percentage and air yard percentage. There's not a lot going on. Even though the quarterback play is bad, he still should get a lot of volume. It's like Brennan Cooks. Brennan Cooks has been a top 20 wide receiver with questionable play at the quarterback position, but nobody else around him to take targets, even though it's a run first team and they will run more without Brissett there. And if you think that's an issue for Chubb, go look at his stats when he faces 8+ defenders in the box. Cleveland's been a run first team for years. Everyone has known they want to run the rock, and he still runs through people. So I wouldn't worry about that. And I like Njoku at the end as like a late round flyer.
Me too.
Volume and opportunity, man. Austin Hooper's
What did
not
the
there
team?
anymore.
What did the team tell us? The team believes, and if the team believes,
yeah.
he's going to get his opportunity. They paid him.
Absolutely.
He's going to play.
It's going to be a long year, though. Deshaun Watson, don't bother, guys. No point. No point. He won't play till week 13. You want him in a super flex league? So much is going to happen before week 13, and you're only going to get him for 2 weeks before playoff time. So I just wouldn't. He went yesterday in the 9th. It's a wasted roster spot. You can grab somebody else at 100%. That point, even in a super flex. Just move on. And speaking of moving on, we're done. Division previews. We are all wrapped up, guys. We have links inside the description here. You can listen on iTunes, Spotify, watching on Game Plus. We appreciate you. We are going to turn the page from all that offseason stuff. Thank you, George. Show is moving to Friday next week. We are going to have 2 live Underdog best ball drafts. If you want to take part, follow along, subscribe to this show, and you get notified right away when we go live. And we will give a bit of a heads up, see if you guys want to jump in and draft with us and hang out with us as we draft. We'll take your questions if you have them. Reach out at the Eric Young and myself at Chris Meaney. Thanks so much, guys, for taking the time to hang out. Shout out to George and Daily Handle, who hung out the entire time. We will see you guys next Tuesday. Cheers.